Hey, what's up, Erik? How you doing?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, man. So excited to have you. Erik Van Horn, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if many of you know him. I know a lot of people in my circle know Erik, and I'm just so excited to be hanging with you for our inaugural, very first pilot mini stream series. So thanks for joining us. I'd love for you to share with just the listeners and the viewers a little bit about you, who you are.
Man, it's so good to be here. Thanks for letting me be on show number one. This is good. So who am I? I'm a franchise guy. I got my start in franchising. I got my start in franchising about 20 years ago. And over the last 19 years, I've been a part of 6 different brands. I've done a lot of different investing along the way, grew other brands, went from brand to brand to brand, had exits, bought other brands, and continued to do that, continued to invest money in different places along the way. So, and I've learned a lot from you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And I can say I've also learned a lot from you. And that's really what makes, a friendship just so much more special when you can hang and, you can do life together, but you can do more than just life. You can impact each other's business and you can teach each other things. And so I love how you have really just built your business. You've built it one step at a time, one business at a time, to the point that now you have expertise in an arena that a lot of people who either A, they want to learn how to, get into the franchise business, or B, they're in the franchise business, but they don't know how to really scale it. And so what you do is unbelievable. So I'm excited to have you here and for us to kind of just chat. I always tell people, I love these events where, I'm doing a podcast or I'm doing a live stream, because one of the things I want is to just be a fly on the wall inside of a bunch of different conversations, people that I know, people that do different things that I want to learn about. And so I feel like it's really fun. You and I, we can talk about whatever we want, and we will. And, people can listen and they can, love what they like and take some notes here and there. And I love that.
I like the fly on the wall, just analogy, because, you and I get to have a lot of private conversations that just aren't published anywhere. And you get to have those with a lot of different people. And so do I. And oftentimes I think like, man, the value that's being talked about in these private meetings, and it's not private just because they're just our normal life, but so many people have normal real life conversations that they were a fly on the wall. it would just impact their lives in incredible ways. So this is fun.
Yeah. And, it's great. You and I, we got a chance to get to know each other really because we got connected through our friend Brad Weimert and through a War Room event. And we got a chance to hang out at Brad's place. He has this really cool, party pad that doubles as his office, right? One level is his office, one level is his entertainment space, which is just great. And he'll have a bartender and in fact, he's going to be on the live stream here on Wednesday. He hires a bartender and he hires someone to make food, and he can entertain, and it's really just a cool spot. You could rent it out, but he just does such a fun job facilitating it. He's got his podcast set up there and like his full studio, and so we got a chance to hang out, get to know each other, and it's amazing how that one little interaction really set forth this path for you and I that has just been chocked full of resources and abundance and just cool relationships and experiences, to the point that, you're now part of my mastermind, the Lifestyle Investor Mastermind. And a lot of the people that are in that group are from your network, which is really cool.
Oh yeah. It is amazing. You look back, and that's where I got connected with you, and I got connected with John Vroman. And I remember it like yesterday. I was in the middle of doing 75 hard. We were, in that room, and I just, asked some simple questions to you guys, and immediately I knew like there was a connection there, right? From being a family man with a business, that whole thing, it blew me away. I'm like, it just resonated with me so much. And then just learning about your business and what you do. And then I eventually became a member of Front Row Dads, like immediately, eventually, meaning immediately. And then, I was going through some stuff in business and I thought, you know what, I just need some help. And you were doing the same thing. And it's amazing how our worlds were, similar in some ways and yet so different, and how we could really help each other out. And both of us get paid a lot of money to advise other people, but here we are just helping each other. And that's a beautiful thing about networking and going into it with a mindset of helping and giving value and not thinking, what can I get out of this thing?
Totally. And by the way, this is so fun to me because you've got a podcast episode that's going to release on my Lifestyle Investor podcast here shortly. This week, I believe we're due to have your episode come out. And so it's really fun to, for people to get kind of like a 1-2 punch of Erik Van Horn. And, but then also just to kind of dive into some cool things. There'll be some similarities, there'll be some differences, but I just think it's so fun to do life together. And at our last dad's retreat, you and I were partnered up, which was cool. We got to spend some extended time together. And you're just a guy that I'm excited about being friends with for the long term, like a lifelong friend, not just like a short term, situational, person or resource or friendship. This one is one that I see being like till the day we die. And exactly. I'm so excited about that. Hopefully that's a long time out.
I know, exactly. Well, with the way that you eat and keep yourself healthy, I'm following right behind you. So I anticipate that it will be a lifelong, long friendship.
I love it. I love it. And so, this is really fun because, I was thinking like, okay, I'm launching a book. I'm launching The Lifestyle Investor, the 10 Commandments of Cash Flow Investing for Passive Income and Financial Freedom. It launches January 12th. So next week, Tuesday. And this is the week leading up to it. It's the big week. And I was deciding, who do I want to be on my very first episode? Who do I want to actually do these live stream series with, because I've got one each day this week and I've got one next week on Monday. And it was a no-brainer to bring you on for the first episode to kind of, open things up. And so people say to me all the time, they say, hey, Justin, what does it mean to be a lifestyle investor? And I have so many different ways I could answer that. But at the end of the day, it's about being in a position where you own your time. You buy your time back. You're not a slave to anyone else. You're not a slave to a job. You're not a slave to your business. A lot of people leave their job to start a business because they want autonomy, and then they become a slave to their business, and they don't realize it at first. And then, they find out that they truly have the handcuffs. Either it's the handcuffs of, let's call them the golden handcuffs to the lifestyle that they become accustomed to. And or they're the bottleneck to the business, and nothing can happen without them, right? Everything, ebbs and flows on them as the leader because they don't have infrastructures or systems or personnel to manage the scale of the business. And then I think about other people that, maybe they're handcuffed or prisoner to security. And it's the job that they have. It's the routine that they're used to. It's having a safe job. And having that security. And to me, my goal in lifestyle investing and educating people on this idea, this topic, I trademarked this for a reason, because I have a belief that people should buy their time back and they should own it. They should have freedom from the standpoint of earning a living and being able to earn off of assets that produce cash flow. So instead of needing a job, getting to choose what they want to do with their passions in whatever capacity they desire, because they have enough cash flow coming in from their investments that's not tied to the stock market or to a qualified plan that they don't have access to, for years and years and years. And there's just no real utility on that money. So when I think about lifestyle investing, I think about someone that has the opportunity to live their life literally intentionally on their own terms, by design, not living a reactionary life where you're reacting to problems, but proactive in deciding what it is that you want. And you're a guy that does that. You live that life. And so I think that's part of why we resonate so well together. But I would love to know from your standpoint, how you look at lifestyle investing. What does that mean to you? When we first met and I talked about this idea, and coined this term, what is this to you, Erik?
This is when I think about lifestyle investing, it's controlling, like you said, buying back my time, controlling my time. And I look at that as my calendar. I'm getting a little bit of feedback, by the way, Justin, just so you know. But I look at lifestyle investing as owning my time. So I go and look at my calendar. If my calendar is full with things that I am obligated to do that I don't want to do, or I just have to do them because somebody else is making me do them, whatever that is, that's not having control of my life. Now, I just put my calendar together for this year, and I've chosen to start a mastermind. I have a mastermind like you. I'm in your mastermind, and I have a mastermind with a tribe of franchisees. And I put that down on the calendar board. Even in that, Justin, you and I designed that calendar around what we wanted to do. We put those dates on the weeks that we wanted to do it, not around somebody else telling us what to do. And so when I think about lifestyle investing, it is like what it means to me is owning my calendar, owning my time to be able to go on vacation when I want to go on vacation, but also knowing being able to work when I want to work, because I was living the 4-hour work week for a while and I got bored with that. I never wanted to be the guy that retired really young, but I did want that 4-hour work week. And it's like some of, friends that we both have mutually, their goal was to retire young. And that was the thing that they wanted. So they wanted to work, build a business, exit, retire. And then they got bored of retiring. At least those were some of my friends. And so I got bored with the 4-hour work week. I was mountain biking all the time, I didn't have any friends to be able to hang out with unless they were older and retired. And I was young, I was in my 30s. So I decided to go build more stuff. And even today, there's things that I want to focus on and want to build in business to produce more cash, to be able to invest more money because I want to do that. Building's fun. Learning different investing principles and opportunities and strategies is fun to me. And so that's what lifestyle investing is to me. And my eyes have been opened up in the past. Well, since meeting you, my eyes have been opened up into different types of possibilities, from strategy, from a tax planning strategy to investment opportunity strategy. And so I'm excited to do more of what you've already taught me to do so far.
I love it. And, you have a killer life. There's no doubt about it. You've got, a gorgeous home, a gorgeous family. You have so much going for you. You can work because you choose to, not because you have to. There's a lot of,
because when you say controlling, when I was saying controlling my calendar, that was the thing that I do. But the reason that I do it is for the family. I was laying on the couch with one of my 3 daughters, and it was Sadie last night, my 6-year-old. And we had had a fun day skiing on the ski slopes, and they're improving. And it's just so awesome as a dad to see that. But then I thought, I want to take each of them skiing by themselves sooner than later. And I can do that. And I told them, let's go do that. And that I have control of my calendar to be able to do that. So the lifestyle investing is having control of my calendar, but I have control of it for the things that are important to me. And you just look at your calendar and then you can see the things that are important to you. And an example of that, I'm going to Disneyland or Disney World, the girls correct me all the time, Disney World for about a week. And then we have a week on the back end of that where we are just going to enjoy some sun and some beach in Miami. And I reached out to another friend of mine. I said, hey, what are you doing? He's like, we just got back from Miami. I'm like, oh, we're going to Florida later. He's like, we're going to be in Disneyland for 2 weeks. So now we're planning a dinner together because we have the same type of lifestyle. So, and the same kind of priorities, right? He's going there with his family. He's not going there with just the guys group for the 100th time to hang out in Miami. He's going there with his family. So you just start to link up with like-minded people that have the same purpose of controlling their calendar versus just controlling your calendar to do what you want when you want to do it.
That's right. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And you have been able to build this killer life. I remember when I took 2018 off, and the goal was to take the whole year off. And I got bored pretty fast. I think it was really great to have kind of like a sabbatical, but I didn't need a whole year. But we did take a couple of months in Europe and, hit up 9 different countries as a family and just literally had the time of our lives. And since then we've been taking these very long extended summer vacations, which are just great because you get quality time with the people that matter most. And that freedom of time is everything. Like that is so much more valuable than making X amount of dollars more. But I also think that inside the space where you buy your time back to be able to think, what happens is you're able to be proactive and plan and be intentional with your life and what you want out of your life. And so I was able to get very clear on what I wanted for my family, for myself. I was able to get in touch with the skills that I have and the passions that I have and merge them together. Like you said, I got bored fast. I know you got bored fast. And so I wanted to have some projects that had impact, that could help people. I love relationships. You and I share that very much in common. And by the way, I'm such a fan of what you've built because, your mastermind and, your tribe is fantastic. You've got a group and a community and a mastermind, 2 separate kind of entities or groups, communities that are just unbelievable. I've been the beneficiary or recipient of some of that great info. We've got many mutual friends inside your organization as well. And so that is just so much fun. Building a community. So you make your money, you have the opportunity to retire or to live the 4-hour work week. It's not as fulfilling as I thought you thought, or maybe we did think that it wasn't as fulfilling for as long as we thought it would be. It's nice to have that sabbatical and then coming back into it. Then you don't have to just make money. You get to make money and you can choose to spend your time where you want to spend it. You and I have both spoken about our masterminds. There's easier ways for us to make money. There's much easier ways for us to make money than having a mastermind. And what I've seen from masterminds, like a lot of the real value that the really smart people that hold really successful masterminds, they create them to have a community themselves. And so you can make a little bit of money out of your mastermind, but you'll make a lot of money because of the relationships in the mastermind. So as I started to create my own, I realized it's even less expensive to pay for masterminds than it is to build one. But to go along with that, it's a giving back thing, not a charity thing, but we get to do that because of the influence that we've built, the things that we know, the experiences that we've had, and now we get to give back to that community. And what I'm also learning in communities like that, there are people smarter than me in some, there's better people in franchising than I am. You're going to have people that are better at investing in certain areas than you are, and you're going to be able to elevate them. And you've already done it. I've already been on some of the calls and I'm like, wow, this guy is wicked smart. And so that's the value of the communities that you and I are building. It's not just built around you or me, but it's about the community that we're building. So it's so much fun. Yeah, and there's so much truth about, many minds are better than one. And so, especially in my space with investing, our community, bottom line, you nailed it because we make enough off of our investments that we can live a killer life and be very charitable and really do anything and everything that we want to do. So I have people all the time, they're like, why are you giving away your secrets? And, why did you go back to something on your time? And one of the things that I stand by is that I don't want to earn my income based on time spent. I don't want it to be, I want my time to be independent of my income. And at the point in time that is the case, then I want my time to be spent on the things that I enjoy. And so, these relationships are just unbelievable. I have some of the most impressive people I've ever met in my entire life in my mastermind community. And so whenever we are vetting deals, now I've got so many more smart people that weigh in and they're able to find things that I don't find. I'm able to see things that they don't see. And we end up becoming a better team because of it. I'm curious, some of your takeaways, like some of the big aha moments you've had, because you've talked before about wow, I never knew that these terms that you've negotiated in these deals even existed. I'd love to know what it is that you've learned on some of these calls and being part of this organization, being part of the Lifestyle Investor Mastermind.
So some of the things that is becoming really clear to me, through your mastermind and mine, I give more time to the higher level people in my higher level mastermind, because you can't give it to everybody. And the people that are paying for access to more information, you give more information to. And so I'm seeing that with you. I had a lot of information that you were giving, and it was mind blowing, but then paying and getting inside the mastermind, it's like, wow, it's on a whole nother level. And I've seen the same thing to be true in my franchise tribe mastermind. The high level ones at the scale level are getting more from me, and I'm bringing in more people that are better, that want to talk to a smaller group of people. So like one of the last calls that we had with your mastermind, the tax strategies were, and the ability to where you pull your money from to invest into other investments. Like I never had that, never saw the different types of strategies that you could actually deploy and do that with. So I've got, a large chunk of money sitting in this one vehicle. That's not a very good vehicle. It's just, I can just access the cash to invest in the stock market, basically, is all I can do. And it's a significant amount of money, at least significant to me. But if I would have had a different vehicle to earn interest on that money, but also deploy that money with tax strategy savings and deploy it into some of these investments where I can get in and out in 2 years and have some equity in a company and have high interest paid to me at the same time. That's what I would have done. Now I'm working with, like some people in your group and my CPA, Jess, to try to access that money to do that. But like, it's possible now. So my mind's just been blown away at the possibilities that of strategy that I didn't know were out there. So, that's one simple thing. And I feel like I'm just scratching the surface on that.
Yeah, and it's really fun when you get to that point where you are successful, you're sophisticated in what you do, you're a sophisticated investor, and you're like, oh my goodness, how did I not even know this world existed? There's so much more. I thought I was like, top of my class, learning this. It's like, whoa, I might be bottom of my class and really had no idea of it, which is fun.
And I'm around other really smart, successful people that are business owners, but if they don't have like access to those types of people, like their money is going to go to, it's not going to go as far. They're not going to have as much to invest, but there's strategies out there that are available to them, the general public, but us in the general public without access don't know. And so we just do what we think everybody else does. And there's a better way.
Yeah, there definitely is. And what's great about your mastermind and your network, your franchisee and franchisor network, I've got, I own some franchises, and we have a business that we're likely going to franchise or at least open multiple locations on. And so some of what you talk about, the principles of creating systems and kind of building, that protocol is so applicable. And so the operators that I'm partnered with that run the, these franchises or these different businesses, that they have gotten so much value out of what you do. And so it's great because, you could come into my group, learn a ton. I'll come into your group, we'll learn a ton. I make sure I bring, my operators and really just, we spread the word. And I think that that's really cool.
That's the best thing about all of this. Like, we just want to help. Like, you get to a certain level, and even like this, the fly on the wall thing, Justin, it's you and I talking, and we're not rehearsed. We are talking about things that we're just experts in. We know, and there's so much stuff out there on the internet that you click on ads and you can get sold so many things, but you really know that you're talking to somebody that knows what they're talking about when they're just doing it off the cuff like this, recorded. We didn't have anything prepared for this. We just got on and started talking, but this is stuff that is both near and dear to our hearts and stuff that we're experts in. And, I'm learning in the investment world. And so that's what I love about this type of media right now.
Yeah, me too. And it's so organic. And I like that. I mean, from like an interviewing, podcasting, creating original content standpoint, like I just want it to be raw and I want it to be unscripted and unfiltered. And I want the real deal out there. And if I make a mistake, I want people to see that. If you make a mistake and you stutter or I stutter or whatever, like I want that to be exposed because that's real. That's normal. Everyone does it. And there are sometimes where you're thinking about stuff, you're trying to figure out stuff, and you're like, I don't know.
It's the outtake in real time, right? All the outtakes in real time. You know, something like, just speaking of like, when, as you were talking, it was making me think, when I saw you last time in Austin, a couple of days before I saw you, I had lunch with a friend. His name's Rudy. And we were just having lunch. And I said, "Hey man, what have you been up to?" Because I knew that he'd done some work with Ty Lopez. He's like, "Hey, I just took over. I'm CEO of Pier 1 now." I'm like, "What? I didn't know that. I should have known that because I'm an investor, one of the original investors into that particular investment." And then so then we just started talking about that. And he said, "It's not announced yet, but I'm going to be a CEO of another brand as well." So we just spent the next hour like talking about the stuff that's going on inside of that brand. And so it's mind blowing, Justin. You're the one that helped me get into that investment. And you were able to show me things in that particular investment of the why they are doing what they are doing. And I think, not a lot of people, there's a number of people that are in that world. They could have invested into Pier 1 and they could have easily said, "It sounds too good to be true." And if you just look on paper what it was, it did sound too good to be true. It's like, this is a pyramid scheme. This doesn't really work that way. If you have average investment knowledge of those types of deal structures, if you were just an average thinker, an average strategist, that's what you would think. And that's what I was. I was just average at that until you were able to shed light on it. And I had some experience because had some real time experience because I was looking at a deal as an investor, raising money for a deal. And so I had what you were telling me, giving me some advice on raising money for the deal, and then the instruction that you were given and the insight that you're given on the Pier 1 deal. It all started to make sense. I see why they are doing that. I see why they are paying such high interest to us. And I see why they just want our money for a short period of time, and why they are giving, an equity kicker and what that really means. And I saw why it was safe for me at that time. So that's what I appreciate about you and what you've done and what you've brought. You helped me understand the whys behind it. And then it started to make sense, because I don't think if I hadn't met you and had that type of understanding, I probably would have passed on that deal.
Yeah, and that's a great one. Thanks for the kind words. That's a fun deal, and Rudy is a total stud, totally brilliant. I'm so glad that he's running stuff, and this is one of. So I call in my book, in the Lifestyle Investor, I call this type of investment an invisible deal, and I talk about the importance of invisible deals because most people don't know about them. They're not on your radar. Most of these sales are, private sales, or maybe they're through a bankruptcy auction. But I love having limited competition or no competition when you want to acquire a company or acquire a property, and you just do the negotiating behind closed doors and no one really knows. And then you get a killer opportunity because the competition didn't drive it up and because most people didn't know about it. And then once the deal's done, people are like, "What? You did what? You got what? For what? How did you get those terms? How did you negotiate that?" And that's the magic of invisible deals, and knowing the right people and being in a network that has deal flow and knowing how to negotiate terms that are favorable to you, that really don't put that much of a burden on you to even invest in it in the first place.
Yeah, it really is. And I've had, and I look back and it's like, yeah, that was so good, because the company was what it's worth when we put our money into it the first time versus what it's worth today. It's like, I look like the smartest guy in so many of these rooms, but at the time, it would have looked, I don't know, it just would have looked too good to be true on some aspects, and some aspects like, this is so risky. But if you have the knowledge and the education, neither of those things are true. you know what you're getting into. And that was the beauty of that one. And my first one was Dress Barn. I got into the second round of Dress Barn. So I was already into it. And then as I dug deeper into everything and I realized Rudy was the CEO of two of those brands, and then talking to him about what they're doing. And then another mutual friend, both you and I have, he's the one that's providing one of his companies providing the back end platform for everything. So it's such a small world. I guess that's my point. It's such a small world in all of this stuff. Franchise is a small world once you really get into it. Some of this investing stuff is a small world in the right circles. So, and I know you are really well connected in that world. And so it's not you just reading something or hearing something. It's like, you have the relationships, you've built the trust with the people, and you have the understanding of what's really going on. So it's all of those things that make all the difference in the world to me.
Yeah, you're right on many levels on that. And it is cool to see our network and how integrated it can be. I mean, one of my goals was, anytime I have relationships, I'm a relationship broker. I love connecting people. It's one of my greatest joys and passions is to hear someone that has, a business over here and they need a different resource, and I'm able to provide that resource over here, and I connect the dots. And so that's really fun to me, that situation, connecting our mutual friend and his business and connecting that, with, all these retail brands is cool. And then obviously, you need to have a little bit of foresight as well to say, hey, the trends look like to me that they're going to be scaling e-commerce much more so than brick and mortar. And this is an asset class that really doesn't exist. It's kind of like single family homes. That asset class didn't exist, 12 years ago, but now it does. Now it's an actual asset class. It's one of the fastest growing asset classes. But again, I mean, just basically a decade ago, it didn't exist. So I'm trying to spot what's the next trend that is not even an asset class.
Dude, what is the next thing? What is the next trend? Come on. Spill the beans.
I wish I knew for sure. I mean, everything's always a speculation, but I'm pretty confident that there's going to be a big shift in the hospitality industry and these hotels that are extended stay hotels that get converted into apartments, condos, different mixed use. So to me, that really is going to be a huge, and a lot of them can go to senior living too. There's going to be more demand on that. But yeah, I see a lot of those being repurposed. That could be a huge area. You've got e-commerce that is booming. And so industrial distribution centers and warehouses, that's another one I see taking off. And what's going to happen, you've got all this crisis from COVID, but what's going to happen is you're going to have new innovation that accelerates because of it. And so let's say that there was no COVID, the status quo would just continue on a little bit longer. So, having something like this not only accelerated innovation, but it created and prompted new innovation that would have never existed without it. And I think a lot of people look at what is being hurt by it, but if you really look at like the macro trends, if you look at all these crises over a period of time, you'll notice that there's more new innovations and business and opportunities that come than what is destroyed in the process. And that, by the way, doesn't make it easy. I mean, to anyone that's feeling the impact of this, it is tough. It's a real thing, especially when these small businesses are really being crippled. And by the way, I can relate wholeheartedly. I know you can as well. And I know people in your community and my community, they do. And I just want to offer words of encouragement in that, in every place that business is hurting, there are business opportunities. So do look for the opportunity, look to see how you can spin, twist, reinvent, innovate your current business or completely pivot to a different business, because there are opportunities that are, basically an opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah. And that's absolutely true. I see people that are, I got a little bit of feedback too, by the way, just want to let you know, but I see people that are in business right now and they are getting hurt. Like one of my businesses is getting hurt, meaning we're losing money every month, right? And we're good because we can weather that storm for quite a while, but we've positioned ourselves to be able to weather that storm for quite a while. So I have empathy for people that are going through it as well. But at the same time, like we're just speaking truth right now. Like, I was in a room with, I think it was Grant Cardone on Clubhouse the other day, and he was talking about it. He said, someone asked him, like, what do you see happening through all this? He's like, the rich are going to get richer, and there's just the income gap is just going to get wider. But you have the choice. Like everybody has the choice to do something about that. Even if your business is getting decimated right now, you have the choice to pivot, to reinvent, to do all of these other kinds of things. So that's the silver lining. By the way, Grant is doing an undercover billionaire show. Have you seen that? Have you heard about that? So he went to El Paso. Awesome. Yeah, he went to El Paso, and I think he got $1 million in less than the time that they really wanted him to do that. And so that'll be an interesting one to watch. But I think it's an interesting time that something like that comes out, because he was dropped off there with $100. And so, like, how many times, and we all know people that have gone through bankruptcy. I interviewed somebody on my podcast last week, and it's going to air in a few weeks. He went bankrupt during the last recession, and he didn't tell anybody for the longest time, and he carried all that weight and stress himself. But I guess the point of all that is people are going through hard times, but man, it's what we've learned, it's what we know, and the people that we're around that can take that possible devastation and turn that around much faster. But you got to have people that you can that can help you, and you got to trust in yourself too. Use the knowledge that you've gained to, like you said, reinvent yourself.
Yeah, you've got to trust your intuition, even when it feels like you can't. And when you really feel like you can't, you need to lean on your peer group. And that's why it's important to have a peer group that plays the game of life at the level that you want to play it, or higher even than the level you want to play it, that gets you out of your comfort zone and forces you to think bigger. And then at the same time, let's take that one other step. It's imperative in my mind to have some sort of a mentor or coach that has done what it is that you want to do, right? So not just a coach that, by the way, there are tons of great coaches out there. I don't want to, talk bad about any coaches. Plenty of people do great at what they do. But what I think people sometimes miss is they get a coach that's never done the thing that they want. And maybe they're a great coach in that area. But my encouragement is find a mentor, find a coach that has basically experienced the life that you want to experience. If you're building a big business, that this person has built a big business. If you are looking for financial freedom and security, this person has built and created financial freedom and security. Whatever it is that your objective is and your goals are and your dreams are, that you have someone that is mentoring you and coaching you that has personally experienced it.
Yeah. And there's so many people that haven't experienced it that are the quickest ones to tell you that you should take their advice. Here's how do you know if you're listening to someone that has really good advice? They're probably not giving you advice, but they're sharing their experience with you. And there's so many people out there that are giving advice. And sometimes you have to pay for that advice, but it's just advice. Most of the best stuff that I've learned along the way is someone says, hey, I experienced this, or my experience in that was this. And I mean, that you and I even talked about that, when we have conversations, we speak from experience. I called you up this summer. I'm like, hey, can you shed some light on this one thing? We're looking at getting into this one particular business, and I know that you have some knowledge from experience in it. And then you gave me some experience in that, not just what you think, but what you've actually experienced. And so whenever I'm looking at getting advice from somebody, it's somebody that has experience. Even in the books, there's people that authors that just kind of regurgitate information. But then if they're an expert in a certain thing, like books are a great mentor. If you don't have and podcasts are an incredible mentor. And there's some new things coming out, things like this, Justin, where it's just very casual, where people are just talking off the cuff, and it's not prepared. It's not produced. It's not a course. It is just a couple people, 2 or 3 or 10 people talking, and they're sharing things. Like, there's so much value in that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I'm so excited about people getting a chance to read The Lifestyle Investor, because I've really outlined this book. Basically, it's my 10 criteria or my 10 commandments for why I make the investments I make. And I give examples for each one of them. And I basically walk through why it is that I invested in this deal, what the risks are, what the mindset was. I walk everyone through basically my 4 philosophies in every example, which would be the mindset that I had when I went into that deal and throughout that deal, through that process, the structure of the deal, and then the filter. Why did that one make the cut? Why did it filter in versus filter out? And then lastly is the negotiation. Where did the deal start and where did it end through the negotiations that I was able to do? And so each of my examples walks through that basically framework of my philosophies. And so I'm excited for people to learn that and to have that education out in the world for impact for anyone who wants financial freedom and financial independence. But then all the proceeds of the book are going to charities that really support personal freedom at the base level, such as, there are people in the US even, sometimes we think this is just in third world countries, but there's human trafficking going on. It's rampant
right here,
in the US.
right here.
Yeah. And people don't realize that. And so I want the proceeds of this book to buy people's real human, bare foundational freedoms back, because that's just not right. So the goal of this book is twofold. I want to impact people from an education standpoint, but I want to impact people from a financial standpoint as well.
Well, when you help people make more money, they are, and they have that heart, and obviously people get in the book, the proceeds are going to charities like that, but they start making more money through investments, they're going to give more. And that's how you change stuff. It's not, and so that's where making money is good, right? You make more money so you can give more money. You teach people how to fish, right? And they do better. So I love that. As you have written that book, I haven't written a book, but authors, they get to the point and they're always adding more stuff. What are some of the things that you're like, you thought you were done, but you weren't really done yet?
Oh man. I really feel like that process is a never ending process. So, I want to add more right now today. And my publisher is like, no, you cannot add anything else. In fact, if they're listening right now, they are jumping for joy because I'm cut off. But in all seriousness, I just feel like I'm always learning and I'm always growing. And that's my goal, is to be, a lifelong learner. And so to me, it's not done. And someone told me that one of the greatest directors, Spielberg, that what he said is that a movie is never complete. It's only abandoned. And so that I need to think of my book the same way. It's just never going to be complete. It's abandoned where it is, in the shape it is, in the best place I can leave it. And then I can pick up on another book if I choose to.
So how, again, this is just raw. If, people read the book, how do they follow you? How do they continue to get more of Justin Donald, more of the the lifestyle investor?
Well, you can most certainly go to justindonald.com. Check me out there. I've got, in fact, I've got a free book funnel. So you can go to justindonald.com/free book. You can go on Amazon. You can get it there. And in that case, obviously going directly to Amazon, more profits exist, but I've got, some freebies and some cool little deals for people that want some extra perks on the website. I've got an online course. I've got a bunch of free content. There's a resource tab. There's, mastermind.
Here's something that some people, I don't think, understand. I try to share this with different audiences because it's good to hear it from somebody else. The best people give away some of their best stuff. They don't give away everything, but they give away 95% of the best stuff. And I know that you've done that because I'm on some of those calls and in some of those groups where you are just giving so much. So I love that. That's how I know somebody's really good. I know people in the internet marketing game that do the same thing. They give away some of their best stuff. So many people they get the book and they're going to learn so much. And man, it's cool because you're changing lives with that. Like you're changing families because of that. Even the book, and then getting involved in your world. So, man, I think it's awesome. Like what's the big thing? Like if you were to come away like this was a success, what would success look like for you?
Well, I want impact. So I actually don't want to measure. For the first time in my life, I've got a brand and a business that I'm not looking to scale, which is weird, right? I built a career out of scaling businesses, and scaling investments and maximizing investments. And that's not the goal here. The goal is impact. And so I actually don't want to put a number, because that's not the end goal. You know, if I impact any lives, even just a handful, to me, it's worth it. And that's both on the financial side, on the charitable portion with Love Justice International, which is the first round, Compassion International. There are a few different groups that are going to be the beneficiaries, B1G1, just some awesome groups. And, from an education standpoint, if I, impact one person, that to me is powerful. And in fact, the whole genesis of this book, the reason I wrote this is because, I've had friends saying for years, Justin, will you write a book? Will you, teach a course? Will you do all this? And basically I kept putting it off, saying I'll get to it at some point in time. I don't have the motivation now. And then a good friend of mine said, hey, Justin, what if you died and your daughter, Savannah, didn't know all this stuff that you know? You didn't have an opportunity to teach her all these things. And that really just was like a punch to the gut. I felt like the wind got knocked out of me. And days later, I started writing. And so, the inspiration for this was to capture everything that I know. So if anything happens to me, my daughter's got a playbook. I've got some legacy from the standpoint of her and her future. And really, since I've exposed it to other people in the process, I've just gotten such positive feedback. And I've had other people that have really, kind of shared for them what they learned, their takeaways, and it helped me kind of craft and swerve and add in a way that I really think is impactful for your average person, but also, a sophisticated investor.
Did your friend know that his or her statement was going to be so impactful, or was it just kind of off the cuff?
It was off the cuff. And that's what's so cool about it. It was.
So what made you catch that? Because you could have dismissed it so easily, but like you said, that's the genesis of the book. So what was it that made you catch that versus just let it go?
Quite frankly, I didn't feel like I could let it go. I mean, that just lingered. I thought about that like all day, all night. I woke up the next day thinking about it. I mean, literally, it was just like lingering in my mind. I got emotional thinking about it, and I was like, all right, well, I think this is it. I think this is I've got this, the leverage is there, right? The tipping point has happened. And so, the rest is history.
So outsider looking in, seems like, it was an off the cuff comment, but I think there's probably a deeper relationship with that person, because you're not going to say that to a stranger. So I think it's cool that you have, obviously it's a testament to you and the friendships and the relationships that you had someone that could say something like that off the cuff, and then you be able to catch it. And then, like you said, you couldn't forget it for a long time.
Yeah.
I would say it's a good thing that you didn't do it right away. Maybe timing was right, because there's been so many interesting developments because it came out now, right? If it would have come out 2 years ago, it probably would have been a different book, right?
Yeah, for sure. And timing is just great now, because people, I think, are more serious than ever before, because their world has been rocked. Their finances have been rocked. If you got money in the stock market, you could look at how the stock market finished this last year. But, remember in March and April, it took a huge hit, and then it has slowly creeped back up. It's come down, it's creeped back up, but it's been on a big rally. But just because you're back to even or a little above even doesn't mean that you made money. I mean, this was one of my biggest ahas that I had, because everyone talked about an average rate of return with me in kind of the conventional financial markets and financial advisors. And so, and I had a wake up call one time where my average rate of return was positive, but I actually lost money. And so I think a lot of people, if they're just looking at like, oh, the market's up, but they're not looking at what was my starting balance, what was my ending balance, like how much did I actually make this year? There's a good chance people lost money, even though the average might be even or, you know, a little positive. And so I think that's important to look at.
How did you even, like, average Joe out there making whatever the average makes out there, even above average, like, how do they know that's not them?
The only way you're going to know is if you actually investigate your statements. You can't investigate what comes on the quarterly or annual statement that says what your average rate of return is. You've got to look at how much money did you put in, and then what's your balance today, and then do your own math. You know, you can figure out the percentage that you're up or you're down. But I just wouldn't be fooled by an average percentage. You want to know actual percentages. You want to know an actual number, an actual return. That's imperative.
What is, I feel like I'm hijacking the time right now. I got you. This is what happens. This is a fly on the wall, but like, this is literally what happens. Justin calls me for some advice and I just flip the script. I turn it on him and I start learning. That's what everybody should be doing. One last question. And then if you have more, go for it. But inflation, like what does Justin Donald say to all this money that we're giving out right now? What's that going to do to inflation? And what advice do you have with that?
Yeah, the more money that's printed, it devalues the dollar. So one of the ways that you can hedge against your money losing purchasing power. So in other words, you know, people always talk about savers and being a saver. Well, if you're only a saver and you don't invest, you're losing money. You know, inflation is probably higher than what you're hearing. Whatever they tell you, it's probably a little bit higher than that. But, you know, let's say it's 3% or 4%, you know, or even 5%. You know, you want to be earning that. The only reason money becomes devalued or it inflates is because more money is printed. That's it. That's how inflation happens. You know, I talk to people all the time and they're like, oh, that's inflation? I just thought stuff went up. And I said, no, it's because more money's being injected into the system, into our financial system. So when monetary supply expands, then assets expand. So
what's monetary supply in simple terms? What's that?
So monetary supply is just the dollars in use. So we live in, so at one point in time, our dollar was backed by gold, and that gold standard was removed decades ago. So now our money is fiat currency, or it's a currency that we use. It's a sovereign currency that our nation uses, and really the world uses, right? We're kind of the standard. But because it's not backed by anything, we can print more money. And it seems like short term, there's no repercussion for it, but there's always a reckoning, you know, that there's always going to be the point in time where something has to be corrected and adjusted based on the influx of cash coming in. So monetary supply is just money being printed. If monetary supply is increasing, then more dollars are being printed and put into the economy. So it makes the value of the dollar less. And so I read something the other day that 40% of the dollars in the U.S. were just created here this year.
Same here. 40. Think about 40% just created.
Yep. I mean, it's unbelievable. So at some point in time, there is going to be, something's going to happen with that. There's no way that goes unchecked. There will be a repercussion to that. But the hedge to it is being in an asset that appreciates the way, you know, in relation to the dollar. So, you know, I love income generating assets because if you're owning, let's say, some real estate and it's kicking off cash flow, well, your asset appreciates as monetary supply appreciates. So that's a positive thing. You're keeping up with inflation by default and you're getting cash flow. So to me, that's one of your greatest hedges. You can also invest in operating companies that have cash flow. There's a lot of ways, but the goal is to have some sort of an asset versus just letting your money sit and not be in anything.
How much is too little? I'd ask seriously one last question. How much is too little for someone if they're not making any money? Should they read the book? Like, I'm thinking this is incredible education. Everybody should be reading this book right now because what with inflation happening, what's happening in the country, like this is the time to get educated. But let's say someone is living paycheck to paycheck, or they have an extra $10,000 a year. Like, is this a book for them, or is this only the book for people that have a lot of money?
This is a book for anyone, and especially if someone is in that place where they're not maybe producing as much as they want, or maybe they're closer to the average income in the US. I think it's even more important that you know the 6 myths that I go through in the beginning of the book. And actually, one of the myths is, kind of broken down into probably an additional 10 myths. So it's probably like 15 myths all packaged into 6. And, ironically, some of the smartest people that I know, some of the smartest financial minds that I know were unaware of a lot of what I've included, just based on the people that got, a first edition of this book and have already read it. And so, yeah, I think it's applicable really to anyone and for anyone. And
that's amazing. That's amazing because, because I know I'm going to, tell my friends that are living paycheck to paycheck, or they're in the beginning stages of wealth building. But, I know you as the Warren Buffett of investing. I mean, you have so much respect in the circle that I run in, but this is applicable to everybody. So this is when I think, you can get mentors out of books, you can get mentors out of podcasts. You can you're going to be so many people's mentor, man. Thank you for doing that.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and it's always great to have awesome friends like you, Erik, that A, are just a great resource in general, and B, are just such a great support for something that's as big to me as the impact that this can and hopefully will have. So thanks so much for joining me today, being my first guest ever on my first live stream ever. This is so fun, and you're just an amazing guy. And I hope a lot of people check you out as well, because you are the expert in the franchise space. And if anyone is thinking franchises, Erik Van Horn is your man.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for what you give to so many people. Thanks for having me on as guest number 1.
I love it. Hey, have a great day, and we'll talk soon.
You as well.